If you run a business and you're paying for any, stack of software to run it, whether that be one or 100 tools, watch this video. But here's the short version if you don't watch. You can stop paying for a lot of it, even sometimes all of it. You could build those tools yourself now, and you don't even need to know how to code to do so. So today I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to show you how. I want to show you the two, the way I see it, the two kinds of tools you can build for yourself, how to figure out which ones are actually worth building, maybe how to figure out the order to build them in, which you should build, which ones you shouldn't build, and all around, so each one kind of makes the next one easier. And then at the end, I'm even going to show you a skill that I built so that you can run it, and then it looks at how you actually work, your work environment, and then tells you exactly what you should build first. And then it will even build it with you, right? So this all started, this idea I had started when Anthropic had an event last week called Code with Claude. This was held in London, I believe. What you're seeing now is a report from MIT Technology Review covering it, and the headline kind of says it plainly, right? Anthropic's Code with Claude showed off coding's future, whether you like it or not. So really, the way software gets built has just dramatically changed for good, right? Or forever. And Anthropic now at this event, and they've been saying this for a while now, they've been saying that most of their own software is written by Claude. Even Claude code itself, a lot of it is written by Claude, all right? So like most software at Anthropic is now written by Claude. And if you just sit with that for a second, you start to realize that one of the best engineering teams on the planet is using AI to write most of their code, right? A year ago, that would have been unimaginable for many, maybe even a horror story. But today, it's just a fact. This is how work gets done today. Now, we keep calling these coding tools or these agents coding agents, right? Claude Code is a coding agent. That is a problem. So we call these things coding agents, and that name is the single biggest reason that most people, many of you watching, are going to miss what's really happening, miss out on a huge opportunity, miss out on a lot of potential. Just the name itself is telling a lot of people that this isn't for them, when in reality it is for them. All right. Claude or code is just the most measurable thing they do. Code isn't the point necessarily for many of us now. For many of these coding agents, these tools, code is not really the point. It's just the easiest thing to measure, and it has stuck around for a long time. And all the marketing of these tools, code either runs well or it doesn't. You can measure it, you can count it. That's why it's all over the benchmarks, and that's just the name that's stuck because this is what these were meant for in the very beginning. But when you sit down and look at what these things actually do, these coding agents like Claude Code, they take a goal, they break it into steps, they use tools, they check their own work, and they try again until it works. Writing code is just the clearest example of that. The skill is the loop, and the loop has nothing to do with code. That is what you have to realize here, right? And this isn't just Anthropic either, right? The same week of that Code with Claude event where all that was announced, Gartner named OpenAI a leader in enterprise coding agents. Their Codex tool is being pushed into companies like Dell and Ramp. So this spans far and wide, not just Claude Code, right? We have OpenAI, we have Google, we have all these different companies involved here. Here's the actual chart from that report about OpenAI, or from that Gartner, report. If you look at it, the right corner here, if you can see, is the four leaders here. We got GitHub, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Cursor. All of them make up the leaders. So this isn't one company making a bet. It's the whole industry, moving the same way at the same exact time. Now, also, the same week that all this is happening, Google announces that they have just revamped their Google search for like the biggest revamp that they've had in 25 years or something like that. The AI mode, the search box now looks like this that you're looking at on the video. The AI mode will take your query and like automatically finish it for you. It's better at conversations now. So now we're not really looking at a bunch of different blue links on Google anymore, but we're just interacting with this agent in Google's search engine, all right? So when you put this all together, you realize that software is becoming something that you ask for now, not something that you hire someone to build. This Google search, soon enough, you'll be able to just build right inside of it apps and UIs and stuff like this without ever even leaving the search. So imagine here in the near future a Google search bar that you can ask, for example, let's say you ask about I don't know, there's a big F1 race tomorrow in Canada, and you ask about the most up-to-date information about all the drivers and the cars and the weather. And Google at some point will just be able to put together this cool little UI that you could click on and see all these different things, all right? It's a weird example, but that's just what came to my head right now. So this is all happening, all right? Now, who does this actually change? Not really the engineers necessarily. We're not concerned here about the engineers getting faster with code. That's not really, what we are involved in for us non-developers and stuff. We're looking at just the people who use these agents for non-development work. Maybe that is the person who could never build anything before. Now they can create apps by chatting. Here you're just looking at a screenshot of Lovable, which is one of the first big popular companies and platforms that allowed us to build websites and apps just through conversation, just by chatting, creating these dashboards, describing what we want and build it. So this is who this is really important for. Someone like me, I'm not an engineer. But I run all sorts of different content. I have various clients. I have various different business operations. I run all of this as a solopreneur. A year ago or a year or two ago, if I needed a tool that didn't exist, I really had three choices here. I had where I could try to buy something that was close enough to fill the need, or maybe I would have to wait for someone to build it. A good example of me waiting for someone to build it is Substack, where I run a lot of my stuff. There is no MCP. They talked about having this in development before. There was no API. There was no way of automating things on Substack. But I found a workaround by building my own MCP server. So, I didn't have to wait around for Substack to do that. And then the third is just go without the thing you need, right? That is your third option, which is obviously the worst. But now there is a fourth, which is just describe what you need, and an AI will build it exactly how you need it. So that is what this name, an AI coding agent hides. Because the biggest winners aren't the people who already code, it's the people who never could. Now, I just pulled this quote here that you're seeing from Hacker News so that we don't have to pretend like all of this is perfect and clean, right? The sharpest pushback going around is this right here. The only people who say generated code is fine are the ones who don't read it. You ship code that you can't read into something that other people depend on, and this can turn out to be a big disaster, right? That is 100% true. You should not be just firing off all sorts of different vibe-coded apps and stuff and giving them to thousands of people with important credentials and all of this if you don't know what you're doing. But if you just look at this a little closer, you'll realize that who that warning is for. It's really for people or teams running systems where the damage can hit other people. So that doesn't necessarily apply to many of you. If you're just building a small tool for your own work, the worst case is it just doesn't work. And then you have to try again. Maybe you wasted an afternoon, but the upside is huge, right? So don't necessarily get scared with all this talk about how these coding agents can delete everything or leak everything, and you shouldn't touch it if you don't know what you're doing, if you have no developer experience. That doesn't necessarily apply to you, right? So what do we actually do with this? All right, so everything I just gave you was just some news and background about AI coding agents and where we are going with this software development from these big companies. All right, that's really the easy part to understand. Anyone can tell you, something big happened, but here I want to give you the playbook. Here's exactly what I would do if I were you, and things that I'm even doing myself right now, all right? It starts with one big change, and it's really in your head before anything else. your whole life, whenever you hit a problem at work, the question always was, what do I buy for this? What app, what subscription can I look for? Maybe you Google, you land on a bunch of affiliate stuff, for solving this issue. I want you to flip this. The new question should be, what do I build for this? That should be the first question. Anytime you run into a problem where you need a tool or something for your business, stop asking the question of what do I buy for this and start asking the question of what do I build for, right? Once you make that flip in your head, it changes the entire game. You become an operator now. You can build things. You build skills in the meantime, and almost nobody is doing this yet. Despite what you see out there, almost nobody is actually putting this into practice. This is why you see a lot of creators and stuff all over the place, or developers who are creating these SaaS tools. And I look at them sometimes and I see that they're charging $10, $15, $20, $30 a month for these SaaS tools that do something simple, generate a specific type of post or do something like that. And I'm just shocked at how much success they actually have, because, you can build something like that for yourself within one afternoon and never have to pay for that, right? So that's really the difference here, right? The old way, you buy it, find something close enough, bend how you work it, you pay every month forever, and then you wait for a feature that never comes. New way is you build it, you describe what you need, all right? So that's the shift. Now, there are two kinds of things that you can build in my head, really. These two things are very different, but they're kind of how I break it down and keep them separate in my head. So the first kind lives inside of Claude, or whatever AI tool that you're using. This could also be ChatGPT, this could also be Gemini, but really, I focus everything on Claude because I think it's the best one. So the first kinds of things that you can build are inside of Claude, and really it's just text, right? These are your agent skills and pipelines. So these are your Claude skills, all right? And the part that should make you a little angry or just open your mind a little bit of what I mentioned before, is that a lot of these things that you could build are things that you probably are already paying for. If you've ever paid for a tool that writes social media posts, whether that be tweets, X posts, Instagram captions, Substack notes, you absolutely don't need it. You do not need that. That is a skill now that you can build yourself. It's a text file. You just need a little bit of training data. You just need a little bit of gathering what success looks like for that specific thing, and then just engineer it into a skill. Same thing with newsletters, same thing with research, same thing with entire content processes, all right? You build a skill for each one of these, and then you chain them together so they run your whole operation. If you take a look here, my co-writer system is a community and platform that I have that opens and closes its doors. But I want to show you today, I'm not selling it today, but what I want to show you today is the plugin library I have inside of it, where you can see all of these different skills that are hosted inside of plugins for my members, right? These are skills that they all have access to. These are skills I use myself. And these are all things that, if you add all the value of them together, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, over a period of time, because of the different workflows that these are able to complete, and all the different SaaS tools and all the different things you would never need anymore, right? So we have, for example, Substack, 13 skills here. We have skills for opinion pieces, how-to guides, case studies, listicles, stuff like that. Then we have YouTube, scripts, titles, descriptions, hooks, SEO optimized descriptions. We have LinkedIn. There's like entire suites of SaaS tools built around LinkedIn, right? Post writing, profile optimization, content ideation, calendar planning, blogs, podcast content production. We have ebooks. We have creating and training courses, landing pages, skills that will literally just build you landing pages right inside of Claude and open it up right on your computer, right? That's many SaaS tools out there that help you build landing pages that you don't need anymore. So all of that, answer engine optimization, SEO tools, research, just to show you, that you can start building, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to build an actual app or a platform or a tool, but instead you can also build these skills in these pipelines, all right? Now, the second kind of thing that you can build, or taking that to a next level, is bigger. It's a lot bigger, and it's real software. It's actual apps and platforms. So here's my best example I can give you, and we're going back to my co-writer system. It's that I built my own platform, over a period of time when I was like, had no idea about development work at all, started using AI, started learning. I built my whole platform here for the co-writer system. So the co-writer system has all the hosting of my skills and my plugins. I also have hosted connectors and MCP servers, custom ones. I have home dashboards, in this nice design. And then I have an entire classroom of courses that are being built out, right? You can literally see the courses, the videos, and everything in community built right in. All of this on my own proprietary platform that I developed with Claude Code. Now, before I had this custom platform, and I'm telling you again, I was not a developer when I built out this custom platform, so you do not have to be one. It might take a little bit of work, but it's a highly valuable skill that you should be learning, and it saves you a ton of money, and it's a good selling point because it just looks better if you're a creator, if you're a coach, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a educator, anything. If you tell people you have your exclusive own platform, it allows you to also raise your value as well. Because before this, I was literally paying some platforms like circle.so, if you're familiar with that, these community platforms. I was paying like somewhere between $400 or $600 a month to run my stuff in these communities, right? Now I can run it on something that costs me absolutely nothing, just whatever it costs to host it, right? So if you are somebody who uses any platforms like Circle or School, SKOOL for hosting your communities, these community hosting platforms, course hosting, even hosting courses, scheduling, forums, link in bio, any type of stuff like this, you can literally build yourself. The subscriptions never get cheaper. You just stop needing them altogether, right? So you build the platform yourself. You are not dependent on all those other ones. You're saving a ton of money. You're learning a highly valuable skill in the meantime that can then be used later, and you're just all around raising the value of you as an operator, all right? Now, what to build first, because you can't, you can probably build everything at once, but you're going to probably focus on something. So where do you start? I would start with like 3 questions, really. These are 3 questions that I often start with. One is it repetitive? Is this something you do every week where the hours add up, right? There are a lot of things in your daily workflows that are repetitive and that you need to do every day, especially when it comes to things like analytics and admin work and stuff like this. So the first question is this something repetitive? The second is it bespoke? Maybe no tool out there fits how you actually work. Your particular makeup of how you work. So you've just been settling for years, patching together all these different tools. And then 3 is, does it compound? Does it turn into something that you reuse? You don't want to go around spending hours building one-off tools that you're only going to use for a day or two and then throw it away, right? So if it hits all 3, you've like hit the jackpot. That's the perfect thing to build, all right? So don't really overthink it. Try to answer these questions, all right? And there really is like an order that matters when it comes to building this. It's what makes everything kind of compound instead of staying like one of those one-off tool builds. The first is, you want to start working inside of a folder with Claude Code or Claude Cowork or whatever, your workspace. Your workspace is gold, right? You really need to build out a workspace folder for these tools. And you want to start with context. It's the most important thing you can have even before you start building things. You need context. This workspace folder has to understand who you are, what you do, who you serve. Because, the agent, for example, me, Claude Code, is always going to read that first. It needs to understand your world, right? It needs to understand, the world that you operate in. So if you just look over here, I just have Obsidian open here. And this is just Obsidian open with my workspace folder that I use in Claude. And you can see my first and most important folder here is context, user, who I am, the tools I use, who my ICP is or my ideal client profile, who it is I'm serving, also what my business is, everything about it, right? So Claude always starts understanding exactly, every piece of context that I have, all right? The next is voice. And depending on what your work looks like, um, maybe you don't deal with any content or anything like that, so you might be able to skip this. For many of you, this second part is going to be voice. So always make sure to capture how you talk, how your client talks, or your brand, or the brands you're serving, and develop skills for that. Develop a skill for that so that everything you produce, even the tools you build, the landing pages, the apps, whatever, it sounds like it's coming from you or your brand, not just generic vibe coded AI. The third is skills, what we talked about, reusable instructions for the tasks you repeat. These are things you can build once and use forever. Each time you build it, it's just another thing you can put in your arsenal here that just keeps compounding. And then the fourth is like actual pipelines where you can chain those skills into workflows that run the whole operation, not just one task. So for me, for example, this might be, I'm recording this video right now. And then from this video, which actually was scripted with my skill for creating scripts in my voice with my voice skill, right? So I got the script, I record this video. From here, I take the transcript, I run it through a Substack plugin with various different skills to write the written version of this. And then I run it through my YouTube plugin with skills for writing the YouTube titles, YouTube descriptions, and then from there it generates 10 Substack notes, etc. You can see that this just starts snowballing into this incredible pipeline that creates so much out of one, origin piece of content or whatever, all right? So context, voice, skills, and pipelines, each one of those is going to make the next one stronger, and that's how you're going to continue compounding your system here, all right? Now, the part that most people will still get wrong over the next 1 to 2 years, no matter what, is that if everyone can build now, then building isn't necessarily the edge anymore. It might be right now, but at some point, it's not going to be the edge anymore, and the edge is going to move, all right? Now, it's going to move, but if you start right now, you're going to position yourself. You're going to future-proof yourself because it's going to move to the system that you already built while everyone else was still shopping, okay? So even though everybody's going to be building, you're going to be so far ahead because you're going to have such a system built already with context, with skills, with pipelines that your builds are just, naturally going to be better. All right. And then you're also going to have a lot of experience to know what is worth building at all versus what's not, which, those other people aren't going to have. And it's also going to, let's say that moat is also going to move to the audience that trusts your name. You're going to build an audience in the meantime. So none of that, whether, an audience, whether that be like me who has people watching, has people in my newsletters, or you who the audience might just be your higher ups at your business or whatever, right? You would have proved a lot to them as well. So none of that is coming from inside of a specific, model. None of it is really able to be copied. This is what you should work on protecting over time, all right? Now, we're getting to the end of this. I've talked about this a little bit before, but there are really two ways to, play this game here. You can either be a tourist, which I've talked about before, or you can just sample everything, try these new tools that drop, collect prompts that build nothing, start from scratch every time. You really have never actually started building stuff, so you have nothing to show when the hype moves on. Or you could be an operator, which I'm trying to teach you how to be here, where you pick these specifics and you go deep on them. You build assets that compound. You turn repeated work into own tools. You start each day ahead of the last. And over time, you just build and own a system that runs your entire business or your clients, all right? So you definitely want to be that second one because only one ends up with a successful business in this environment that we're heading towards right now. All right, before I wrap, I do want to show you a skill that I built that is included in my Substack. It's called a build or buy audit. It's going to read basically how you work and tell you what to build first. So you're going to find it below my Substack for paid members. So join the Substack if you didn't already, if you're not part of it. And once you download it, you're going to come into Claude and you are going to upload it into your skills here. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So it's a build or buy audit skill. It's going to look at how you actually work and what you pay for, and then it's going to tell you exactly what to build instead of buy, as a skill or a platform. And then it will also even help you build it, right? And it's going to do this by scanning your entire workspace. So you need to have a folder, a workspace folder that you're working in for your business inside of Claude for this to work. This skill is, everything you just watched is basically what this skill does. So, you can build this yourself with the first 20 minutes or whatever of this video, everything I taught you. But this is just an easy way of just jumping right in right now, okay? So you're going to see that this skill is going to go through a couple steps. It's going to scan your workspace first. So make sure you have a claude.md file. Make sure you have context in there. Then it's going to interview a little bit to fill in some gaps. It's going to run the filter, and then it's going to classify each build. You'll see how it works here. Inside of Cowork, I uploaded the skill and I just ran it, but it's running inside of that folder I showed you with all of my different stuff. So this folder has all of my context, it has my wiki of content. It has workspace assets, my Substack, my YouTube. It even has client work in there. It has my products, everything in this huge workspace folder. I went ahead and ran it. You can see that it scanned my workspace to understand how I operated. It looked at everything I did. It kind of reiterated back the context about me, knowing that I'm a solo operator running my business through Claude with my personal brand of Substack, YouTube, client work, my co-writer system platform and stuff like that. And then it asked me a couple questions, and basically I told it, my biggest cost pain is really just cross-channel analytics. And I want whatever has the highest RIO or ROI. And then it ran through all of this, and it gave me this build or buy audit for my business here. You could see that its first recommendation was to build an operator cockpit, which is just a live dashboard across my Substack, my YouTube, my ConvertKit, my co-writer system sales. It even gives you how to build it. Here it's going to build a Cowork artifact. And then what it replaces: standalone analytics and dashboards, manual checking of 4 different dashboards, estimated money saved, $30 to $100 plus hours per week, and then priority. Then it also gave me a revenue and sales panel. And then it also recommended a weekly what's working skill that will read this data and write insights. So that's cool. And then it tells you what you can just keep buying. It's not worth building, right? So Substack hosting, of course, I'm not going to go host my own Substack newsletter right now. So we're going to keep that. My research stack, which is Perplexity, Firecrawl, stuff like that, keep using that. And ConvertKit, of course, keeping that, right? So once you tell it all that, it's going to go ahead and build it out. You're going to give it the go ahead, and you can see here, let's see, it built out this operator cockpit of my different stats here, which I haven't edited yet. So I would have to go in here and give it the real numbers by hooking up to some connectors, correcting some things here. But just to show you right off the bat that you can start building this out. So this would be a dashboard with, my Substack subs, my paid annual revenue, YouTube subs, co-writer system, stats. We could come down here, see each one broken down. And then it even works in like this little skill here where I could click generate each day, and it's going to kind of analyze all of my data across my different platforms, my different sales and stuff, and give me like a daily report. And this will live inside of Claude Cowork all the time. So anytime I fire up Claude Cowork and refresh this, it refreshes the numbers, it pulls in the most up-to-date information, and I could run this every day. I built this literally in like 5 minutes after writing up the script for this video, just to show you this would already be a tool that you might pay $20+ a month to have, if not patching together a bunch of other tools. So really try that out. Check out that skill if you're interested in building any type of tools, but you can also just, audit all your stuff yourself and work with Claude Code to build it yourself. It's not necessary, but it's a cool thing to have. All right, so what I really want you to kind of walk away with here, is really the mindset shift. It's really the stop. Every time you hear, the words coding agent, which you hear all the time, right? Claude Code is a coding agent. Codex, coding agent. Every time you hear coding agent, Stop just thinking that it's for developers. I push this all the time. It's not just for developers. It's really an everything agent that happens to be the best at code right now. And the door it opens is yours. It could be used for anything. So there are these different resources all over the place. Check them out. I'm also dropping a free 100 things to build instead of buy below. Check that out. It's just like 100 ideas I can come up with, of different skills, pipelines, workflows, and apps you can build. Also, the build or buy audit. Grab all of that, pick something to build it this week, build it today, and then build the next one a week later, right? It's not a side project. That is you actually becoming an operator who isn't locked out of anything anymore. That is the window. Use it. Definitely start building your moat right now before, it becomes the norm for everybody to be building these apps.